has been happening with Zoom Zoom operations, and so unfortunately the meeting had to be terminated sooner than it was intended. But it was a learning experience, and I know Captain Sue was kind of smiling, and this is brave new world for us, and so we're trying different things, and so it was a lesson learned. But I think that it was a good first attempt, and hopefully the other quadrant commanders will move forward to keep their communities informed on issues of interest to the different parts of Pomona. And then about a week and a half ago, I had the pleasure of attending in person. We all had masks on with the swearing in of my appointment to our reconstituted youth commission. Ryan Houston was sworn in by the deputy city clerk, and his brother and his mom were there, and nice quick little swearing in ceremony. We took some photos and everything, but he's a bright young man, and I think he's going to be an asset to our new youth commission once they get all fired up. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilmember Lestro. Councilmember Torres.
Yes. First and foremost, I want to thank the firefighters for the work that they're doing in terms of taking on these fires across California and keeping our community safe right now. Encouraging residents to stay indoors as much as possible, unless, of course, you absolutely have to. But I also want to thank the residents who I've been talking to over the last few weeks. Thank you so much for your patience and your kind words about the city of Pomona and some of the work I've been doing over the last 3 years. One quick update I do want to let the residents of Pomona know is I got an opportunity to participate in a conversation with the members of Congress about some of the funding for the city of Pomona, and I'm happy to announce that the city of Pomona did or is going to receive over $1 million in community development block grants. So you should be seeing that update coming up soon. Something I'm really hoping that the city council does is put that money to the areas that we've been working on, rent relief, small business assistance. Those are the things when I talk to some of the Congress members and senators about, is that we're doing the great things in the community, providing rent assistance, small business assistance, and why they need to continue to fund our community is very important. That's all I have to say at the moment right now. Like I said, I want to thank everybody for the strong support. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Torres. All right, I just have a couple of things. One is I want to remind the community that the Latino and Latino Roundtable will be hosting their Cesar Chavez breakfast on September 25th at 9 a.m. I encourage you to go to their website. They are an absolute outstanding organization that does great work in the city of Pomona and in the Pomona Valley. And so I encourage you to consider participating in that virtual breakfast. I know it's a first for them, as is all virtual activities, really a first for all of us. The second thing I want to share with you is that the Mayor's Police Reform and Accountability Task Force will be meeting tomorrow virtually from 3 to 5. That work will start. And let's see, also just want to thank the American Legion Post 30 for the remembrance of those who tragically lost their lives on September 11th, 2001. There were several members of American Post Legion 30 who participated in that ceremony, and also want to thank the police department for their participation in that. And with that said, I'm going to go and turn it over to our city manager, or I should say, Rosalia. Next item.
Next item is City Manager Communications, and these are reports from the City Manager.
Nothing to report right now.
Thank you, James. Okay, the next item.
Okay, next item is public participation. In response to the global COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with California Governor's Executive Order N2520 regarding the Brown Act and guidance from the California Department of Public Health on gatherings, please note that comments for public participation or for a specific item on the agenda were accepted by email and will be read into the record by the city clerk. The deadline to submit email comments was 6 p.m. today, and comments will also be accepted via the Q&A feature on Zoom or by live comment by phone or internet. If you would like to comment, please indicate now to staff by either using the raise hand feature on Zoom, dialing *9 if you are calling in via phone, or leaving a comment in the Q&A box. Staff will call on you one at a time. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes for their comment. Mayor, so first we'll go ahead and read through the email comments that were received today in the city clerk's office.
Thank you, Rosalia.
So first comment today came from Elizabeth Brooks. Ms. Brooks says, government officials need to get out of the property management business. I encourage the Pomona City Council to stick to city issues. If you take the time to talk to realtors, you will find that the majority of residential tenants are paying their rent on time. The tenants who always take advantage do not need additional excuses to circumvent their responsibilities. Being able to evict a tenant for being a nuisance is not true. Having a roof over someone's head seems to be more important than the neighbors they are terrorizing. I would like to publicly thank the members of the Pomona Police Department for their time and patience for too many calls for service for one unit. I would like to apologize to Police Chief Ellis for having to take up so much of the department's time. Instead of assisting responsible tenants, this eviction moratorium is at times creating an unsafe environment for those who live next to unruly and irresponsible tenants. I encourage the Pomona City Council to avoid making stricter guidelines regarding rent control and evictions. What has been put in place by the state and county has created a nightmare for the good tenants of Pomona. Next comment is from Ricky Fine. I was sorry to hear that Fairplex in Pomona was not going to be allowed to have the drive-through fair food experience other campuses were allowed to offer. My family and I drove to the Orange County Fair yesterday to get our fix of fair food. We all live in Pomona and support Fairplex. Why have the members of the Pomona City Council been conspicuously quiet about the closing of Fairplex activities? Where is your concern about not having the tax revenue these events generate for the city of Pomona? What are your plans to replace the amount of money that Pomona is not going to receive this year? The Fairplex brings notoriety to the city of Pomona. My friends and family are in mourning that Fairplex is closed. We expect the members of the Pomona City Council to be more concerned and supportive. Next comment is from Gerald Cruz. In March, City Council passed agenda item on permit fees and process for cannabis businesses. I did not stick around for the agenda item on zoning of cannabis businesses because I was so miserable. As to answer my prayers, COVID struck. Misery loves company. I like the extra money. The masked debaters and their participation adding to the riots, causing more infections. How could it get any better? Well, let's just say these fires and the heat wave are hitting that state that screwed me over time and again. Even better yet, the riots and looting are great entertainment, especially the professional looting directed against the cannabis business. You gotta love it and maybe learn from it. How could you ignore the facts about how your previous council, and especially that hateful Mayor Torres, villainized the first legal cannabis business in this city and authorize enforcement to use every means? Where's my goddamn license? You raided places after my complaints, but I don't have the priority that I was told I would have if they ever allowed the use. Lying, cheating government workers. How is this equal treatment under the law? Next comment comes from Julie Mestas. I'm writing for tonight's meeting regarding the homeless situation, actually the vagrants within the city and the destruction that they cause to our properties, property owners. I manage several commercial properties within the city. This morning, received a text regarding a break-in through our wrought iron fence in the back alley near downtown Pomona. It seems we are focusing on the wrong people. We have so many services for homeless, but they don't want our help because they want their lifestyle. We are not helping businesses that pay taxes and business license fees to help with city services, but who helps the businesses? I ask the council to find a solution to help our businesses here in Pomona. Thank you. That was the final email comment for this evening. Now we'll go to the
3 hands raised, Rosalia.
Thank you, Anita. Let's see. So our first. Okay. So our first comment, verbal comment will come from Mr. Ben Wood. Mr. Wood, go ahead.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Mayor and the members of the council. Um, excuse my throat. I've been out here with the members of Pomona United for Stable Housing rallying for the past half hour. And even though we're masked up, we're getting a lot of smoke in our throats. So we're calling it right now. But the reason we're out here is because the protections, supposed protections that the county and the state have passed for tenants are really not enough. They're not sufficient. And we've been asking the council to take action to protect the tenants since most of them cannot pay rent due to the COVID pandemic. And so we'd like to ask you once again to please just have your staff look at what's available right now. We believe that there's a big gap in the protection, which is when landlords use a pretext to evict tenants since they're already protected from being evicted if they have filled out the appropriate paperwork, which is pretty arcane. But there's other ways to get tenants out. And we believe, in fact, some of your landlords this evening have talked about how they're trying to evict tenants. So if you can ask your staff to look at your options and investigate those options and see what's available to protect the tenants. I've been out of my office for the last 8 weeks. I've been on family leave. I've welcoming the new member of my family, so it's been a little bit difficult to get back up to speed and back in the groove. But as soon as I got back, there was tenants calling. They're having a very difficult time just determining what protections are in place for them, and they're in need of help. So we are calling on you to use the police powers that you have as a city and over housing to ensure that the tenants are stable and welcome to stay in our beloved city.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Next comment will come from Fernando Romero.
Good evening, Council. Good evening, Mayor and City staff. This is Fernando from POC. I'm actually raised my hands for item number 2, so I will defer to item number 2, if that's okay.
We'll pull that item, Fernando. Thank you.
Okay. And our next, looks like our final verbal comment is from, it says Galaxy. If I can have a name from the speaker.
Hi, my name is Yesenia Miranda Meza.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, Council, and staff. As you already know, we have been fighting to stabilize tenants in Pomona for a very long time. I'm going into 3 years now, and the AB 3088 that was just passed by legislation, it's some protections, but landlords still have a loophole to evict people. Right now, I'm working with a family, a couple with 2 little girls, 6 and 8, that are being evicted from a home. So it's happening. I'm very frustrated because there's going to be a bigger tsunami of folks being evicted, and it's I feel that our council can pass an ordinance that would protect our tenants on those parts where 3088 fails to do so. You guys have the power to do so in the city, especially right now that we're under state of emergency. And just like one of the landlords said, that tenants just don't want to pay their rent. How are they going to pay their rent when they don't have the money to pay their rent? So once again, I plead with you guys to please try to find something out to keep as many tenants as we can in the city of Pomona, especially during a pandemic. Right now I'm working, like I said, with this family, 2 little girls. And of course I have to reach out to members of staff in order to help us do that. But I just heed my warning, please. If an influx of people come, we're not going to be able to save as many if there's not policies in place that will protect us in court. We need policies that are put into place that could protect these tenants when they go to court so they will not be evicted. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And that's it.
Thank you. Mayor, that was the last verbal comment. I don't see anyone leaving a comment in the Q&A feature of Zoom webinar or anyone else dialing in. So it looks like we are through with public comment for now.
Thank you, Rosalia. Before we move on, I'd like to ask our city attorney to not weigh in tonight, but I know that there's questions about the state ruling and the county ruling on evictions, and I know that there's some potential gaps there, and I think it would be good for the city council to hear what they are, and also perhaps what path we may take, and obviously with your legal guidance that would be appreciated. So certainly we don't have to discuss it tonight, but we can we have a meeting next Monday, and if at all possible, I think it would be good to introduce it then. Okay. All right. So moving on to the next item.
Okay, next item is consent calendar. All matters under the consent calendar may be enacted by a single motion without separate discussion. If discussion or a separate vote on any item is desired by a council member, that item may be removed from the consent calendar and considered separately. All consent items pulled for discussion will be limited to 5 minutes. If they are not enacted upon within 5 minutes, the mayor will move that consent item to the end of the agenda. After consideration of the public hearings, any motion relating to an ordinance or a resolution shall also waive the reading of the ordinance or resolution and include its introduction or adoption as appropriate. And we do have email comments that were sent to the city clerk's office, and we will go ahead and read those now. Again, once we are—
For what item?
I'm sorry?
For what item?
For item number 2 and also item number 3.
Okay, so could we do this? Let's hold off on that.
Sure.
Let's pull item 2 and 3. Okay, so we could hear public comment. And then I know Councilmember Lestro would like to pull item 21. Are there any other items that the council wishes to pull at this time? And if not, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve all consent calendar items minus 2, 3, and 21. Can I get a motion for approval?
Mayor, I so move that to pull items 2, 3, and 21 and move the rest of the calendar.
Okay. Got a second from Councilmember Lestro, first by Vice Mayor Garcia. Let's go ahead and do a roll call.
Okay, roll call. Preciado?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Ontiveros Cole?
Yes.
Lastro?
Yes.
Torres?
Yes.
Sandoval?
Yes. Okay. Want to go ahead and start with item 2 and read item 2?
Yes. Item 2 is the approval of funding of $75,000 to the Pomona Economic Opportunity Center, or PEOC, in accordance with the defined disbursement schedule.
Okay. And I understand Fernando would like to say a few words.
Would you like for me to read the email comments first? Or
Oh, forgive me, Rosalia. Okay,
No
yeah.
problem.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, we'll go ahead and read the email comments first and then take in the verbal comments from the participants of the meeting tonight. Our first comment is from Jenna Hoover. I'm a resident of Pomona and a member of First Presbyterian Church of Pomona. I would like to express my support for item number 2 and the renewal of funding for the Pomona Economic Opportunity Center and operation of the Pomona Day Labor Center. The PEOC provides valuable service and support to a marginalized community of low-wage workers and immigrant community members.
Second speaker is Catherine Leslie. I am urging continued funding and support of Pomona Economic Opportunity Center and continuing operation of the Pomona Day Labor Center, item number 2. PEOCC provides invaluable affordable services to our Pomona community. I have utilized their services in the past and will utilize them in the future. I am grateful they provide high quality, safe, affordable services to people like me, a senior on a fixed income. I appreciate the PEOCC facilitates decent jobs at fair wages to people in our more marginalized communities and provides safeguards for them that, among other things, assures they will not be taken advantage of by unscrupulous individuals. PEOCC is a win-win service organization that we cannot afford to lose. Please renew funding for the Pomona Economic Opportunity Center and ensure continued operation of the Pomona Day Labor Center.
Next comment is from Elizabeth Brooks. In reviewing the 2020-2021 proposed budget for the Pomona Economic Opportunity Center, I see no need for the City of Pomona to contribute additional funds. The PEOC is receiving hundreds of thousands of dollars from outside foundations. Their expenses seem to be exorbitant for the service they provide. I suggest instead that they go back and trim the fat, as the rest of Pomona's organizations have had to do. I encourage you to not vote to contribute city funds to PEOC.
From Reverend Elizabeth Granger. I'm a resident and a chaplain at Pomona Valley Hospital Medical Center. I would like to express my strong personal support for item number 2 and the renewal of funding for the Pomona Economic Opportunity Center and operation of the Pomona Day Labor Center. I know firsthand that many in the community receive fundamentally important services from the PEOC. I have observed the wonderful and all-inclusive support and resources they provide. Many of the patients who come to the hospital would have also told me about how much the PEOC helped them. I'm writing to ask that these valuable services to some of the most vulnerable in our community are continued. Please consider how much this organization helps when you are renewing funding.
Next speaker is Hayden Catmere. My name is Hayden Catmere, and I'm emailing to voice support for continued funding of the Day Labor Center. The center has provided and can continue to provide support for day laborers who are low income and or immigrants. Please continue to allow the Day Labor Center to continue to provide resources and support for our day laborer community members.
From Raul Madrid Jr. My name is Raul Madrid Jr., and I am a resident of Pomona. I would like to express my support for item number 2 and the renewal of funding for the Pomona Economic Center and operation of the Pomona Day Labor Center. The PEOC provides valuable services and support to a marginalized community of low-wage workers and immigrant community members. At this time, during a global pandemic, it is this population that we must not turn our backs on.
Next speaker is Mike Suarez. My name is Mike Suarez, and I have been a resident of Pomona for over 35 years and a board member of the Latino-Latina Roundtable. I would like to express my support for item number 2 and the renewal of funding for the Pomona Economic Opportunity Center and operation of the Pomona Day Labor Center. The PEOC provides valuable services and support to a marginalized community of low-wage workers and immigrant community members of Pomona. Thank you.
From Mike Warren. According to their 990 tax forms for 2018, the Pomona Economic Opportunity Center ended the year with $237,897 cash in the bank and $40,012 in a savings account. I feel that some of their expenditures do not seem to be in line with their mission statement. The PEOC receives hundreds of thousands of dollars from outside foundations. Before agreeing to commit any funds from the City of Pomona, I strongly urge that an audit of their expenses be conducted to see why this would even be necessary. I encourage you to vote no to contributing city funds to POEC.
Next comment is from Juliana Pina. I'm a resident of Pomona and a member of Gente Organizada. I would like to express my support for the agenda item number 2 and the renewal of funding for the Pomona Economic Opportunity Center and operation of the Pomona Day Labor Center. The PEOC provides very important and valuable services and support to low-wage workers and immigrant community members.
From Ann Niemer. My name is Ann Niemer. For 32 years, I was a teacher in the Pomona Unified School District, where I worked with the students of low-wage earners and day laborers. I would like to express my support for item number 2 and the renewal of funding for the Pomona Economic Opportunity Center and operation of the Pomona Day Labor Center. The PEOC provides valuable services and support to a marginalized community of low-wage workers and immigrant community members. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Next comment is from Francisco Suarez. I'm a former resident and business owner in Pomona. I am very familiar with the work of the Pomona Economic Opportunity Center, PEOC. Their work as one of the first centers in the San Gabriel Valley should be commended for their help to thousands of marginalized people. The city of Pomona should be commended for continuing to contribute to such a fine organization and all of its committed employees.
From Megan Ortiz. My name is Megan Ortiz, and I'm the Executive Director of the Instituto de Educación Popular del Sur de California. We are the largest single operator of day labor centers in California, operating 5 day labor centers in Los Angeles City. We know from personal experience the importance of municipal investment in workforce development programs that support a largely undocumented workforce. Often left out of the traditional workforce development role, centers like the Pomona Economic Opportunity Center have their finger on the pulse that are constantly innovating in supporting the training and placement of workers. But beyond that, the Pomona Economic Opportunity Center is also an example of leadership and civic engagement. I personally have witnessed this leadership in action at events and trainings hosted by them, and when workers who have been helped have attended events at one of our locations. Furthermore, places like Pomona Economic Opportunity Center are trusted wraparound services and support that go way beyond what could ever be funded. I have seen the passion and commitment demonstrated by the staff there. In a moment such as this one, when immigrant workers have to hold numerous disasters like the pandemic and wildfires. On top of the historic economic disaster day laborers and household workers have faced, the Pomona Economic Opportunity Center deserves not just to be funded, but celebrated as an example of evolution beyond survival.
Next comment is from Ruth Martinez. My name is Ruth Martinez. I am a resident of Pomona and a young professional. I would like to express my support for item number 2 and the renewal of funding for the Pomona Economic Opportunity Center and operation of the Pomona Day Labor Center. The PEOC provides valuable services and support to a marginalized community of low-wage workers and immigrant community members. As a member of the PEOC community and the daughter of immigrant parents, I believe Pomona can be a supporter of this initiative to improve the livelihood of the city. Thank you for your time.
From Daniela Alvarenga. My name is Daniela, and I'm a workers organizer with the Pomona Economic Opportunity Center, and I'm expressing support for renewal of PEOC funding. During and pre-COVID, we have provided valuable resources to community members most impacted by structural inequities. We have provided job employment opportunities, direct financial assistance to workers during COVID, food and housing assistance, and led various efforts in census outreach to ensure Pomona is counted. We look forward to your continued engagement and funding for years to come.
Next comment is from Evelia Rocha. My name is Evelia Rocha, resident of Pomona and member of Padres Unidos. I would like to express my support for item number 2 and the renewal of funding for the Pomona Economic Opportunity Center and operation of the Pomona Day Labor Center. The PEOC provides valuable services and support to marginalized community of low-wage workers and community members.
From Fernando Romero. Hello, my name is Fernando Romero. I am the Executive Director of the PEOC. The PEOC.
Rita, I don't mean to interrupt you. I know that he's on the line and he's going to speak. So it probably makes sense if he wants, we can read it into the record. But I know that he does want to speak, so
I'll hold the
give him
comment.
the time that he needs. Yeah, thanks.
Very good. I'll go on to the next one. From M. Joyce Bakersmith. I object to continuing the financial support to an organization that has been receiving funds from the city for more than 20 years and has done nothing to equitably help all day laborers receive jobs. The Pomona Economic Opportunity Center was established as a day labor center to eliminate massive gatherings of day laborers in the vicinity of the contractor's warehouse on Mission, from impeding traffic, restricting access to local businesses, and creating trash traditionally left by large gatherings. The intent was for the center to become self-sufficient. Self-sufficiency has not happened. It has gained a spot in the city budget. I object to POEC's receiving funds, as I object to the Pomona Chamber of Commerce and the Cámara de Comercio Hispana de Villa de Pomona, who requested $10,000 under the donation and finding a public benefit request agenda category on August 3rd, 2020 meeting attachment. PEOC does not offer equal opportunity for all day laborers, and it should not receive city funds. POEC exists only for hiring opportunities of undocumented workers.
That was our final email comment, and we are now going to Fernando Romero. Mr. Romero?
Welcome, Mr. Romero.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council. Good evening, city staff. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to chat and bring up our item on tonight's agenda. I really do thank everybody for taking this in consideration. And I just want to also thank all the folks that sent in public comment earlier this evening. I really appreciate it. It definitely shows our connection to the community and the work that we do. And, you know, and I sent a public comment earlier, so, but I also just wanted to chat, and if there's any questions or clarifications on my end, I'm here to say, again, thank you. I do want to just preface, you know, I think the work that it speaks for itself. I think we've been in partnership with the city of Pomona for almost 20 years, and I think our partnership and our collaboration speaks for itself, specifically in 2020, in the middle of a global health pandemic, in the middle of an economic shutdown that affected specifically migrant undocumented workers. And I think that not only is our work evident, but the need for organizations like ours is more evident than ever before. You know, since mid-March of 2020, we had to close our doors. We'd have to work remotely, but unfortunately our workers were still out there looking for work every morning in the middle of a global health pandemic. And as an organization, we saw the importance of continuing to provide those services, to provide workforce development, to connect them to jobs. And, you know, we've been able to do that. And we've been able to do that, as I mentioned, not just in partnership with the city, but other local agencies. We've partnered with the mayor, Tim Sandoval, Councilmember Preciado, Councilmember Nora Garcia, in providing food assistance, food vouchers, food deliveries to basically every resident in Pomona. We've been able to do that because we have support from folks like the city, but at the state level and even at the county level, to do this on the day-to-day basis, even in the middle of a pandemic. And I do want to say, I think as we all know, it's, you know, we're mid-September. It's been a really difficult year for a lot of us. There's still a lot of work to do between now and the end of the year. And a lot of things that have happened have really highlighted why it's important to continue to fund organizations like ours. I think one of the conversations, and I don't want to get too much into the politics of it, but I think one of the conversations that we've, especially in late May, early June, regarding the Black Lives Matter movement, one of the conversations, and like I said, I don't want to get too much into the politics or the weeds of it, but one of the conversations or suggestions in that movement is to not to defund the police, but to also provide more community investment in organizations and agencies like ours. And I think PEOC is a testament and a great example of what community investment looks like. And as we say, that a safe community is a community that has a lot of resources and a lot of investment. And as I mentioned, PEOC is a great example of that. And I think that, you know, everybody in the city that has been working at the city level, from city council, mayor, and city staff, should pat yourselves on the back, because when we talk about—
I'm sorry, Mayor, that's 3 minutes.
Thank you. Well, I'll close with that. But like I said, I'm here for any questions or clarifications on my end. I do want to thank everybody, the city council and staff, and the city and the mayor and the community.
Fernando, thank you. And we'll keep you on, and council members may have questions for you. Okay, but I'm going to have the city council share their thoughts if they wish. I'm going to start with Councilmember Torres, and then we'll work our way down. Councilmember Torres?
Oh, yes, thank you very much. From what I understand, that some certain paperwork wasn't submitted, or some information wasn't made available to the city, which is why this funding wasn't approved last month. In the future, I hope that, you know, we can work together a little closely to make sure that this information does get to the city, so that folks are able to continue these programs and provide some of the assistance. I know a lot of the politics gets in the way of things, but it's important that we submit these forms in, because you mentioned you've done a lot of great work. There's a lot of people counting on you to get these forms in. And, you know, there's a big responsibility, you know, and sometimes we have to just, you know, I believe, swallow humble pie and get these things in. Now, there's a couple of speakers that went out and spoke against them, right? And, they've said, calling for audits, calling for all these things. I'm gonna be honest with you. When I was out there calling for audits of certain organizations, those people right there were speaking against my community. And when they go out there and talk about, they're asking for funding all the time. Some of these folks there are always asking me for funding, and I stopped funding them because I haven't seen the value in what they do. And by the way, I do go in that community and I do talk to all the residents, and I get every single house is loving me and loving my family. So the community is supporting me 100%. And when I talk to the Latino community, I want the Latino community to be very clear about something, because I come from a family of immigrants. My mother came from Guatemala. She captured the American dream, got elected to Congress, and had 3 kids. They're all upstanding citizens, by the way. And I always tell folks, Latinos, that Latinos got to advocate for Latino issues, plain and simple. Because the bottom line is, whenever push comes to shove and we're advocating for our own issues, it's often that we're having to do the advocating for ourselves. So just be very clear about, in the future, we have to kind of come together and advocate for Latino issues, period. So I hope this funding does get passed. And like I said, I will be looking at what people are asking me in the future, calling out organizations, telling us not to fund them, but then they're asking me for funding every year. That's ridiculous. Thank you.
Councilmember Lestro?
I have nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Altaveras Cole?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Okay, it is my understanding that this particular organization began in 1997. Who can answer me some of these questions, please?
So what I'll do is I figured the questions that you need answers to would probably be Fernando Romero. So why don't you direct them to Fernando, and if he needs anyone else, I'm sure he can. I don't know if there's anybody else there to answer those questions, but I'm sure he has that information that you probably need. Okay, Councilmember Altaveras, go ahead.
Okay, and perhaps also Andrew, if it comes to a more in-depth type financial question. Could I have that as well?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Fernando, I'm sorry, I cannot see your last name.
Romero.
Okay, Mr. Romero, the organization was established in what year, sir?
To my understanding, it was established in 1998.
Okay, I believe it was 1997, but so it was established in regards to having the laborers more into a profession or a job circuit where they would be able to obtain work, correct?
Right.
Okay. In the beginning, I think the RDA in the early or the late 1990s was part of the opportunity where they gave them money from the RDA. Is that correct?
That is my understanding, yes, the redevelopment agency, yes.
Okay. Can somebody tell me whether it's you, I'm so sorry, or Mr. Romero, or if it's Andrew, our financial director, how much money was given to the PEOC at that time until it was terminated by Governor Brown?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yeah, when RDA was terminated in 2011, the last amount that was provided from RDA was about $93,000 in 2010, 2011 funding. That was the last year.
Okay, so every year RDA gave them a fund of particular amounts of money. So you're telling me, Andrew, that up until 2011, the only thing they received was $97,000?
No, that was the amount they received in that fiscal year, which was the last
Right.
fiscal year.
But in the beginning of RDA, I'm very curious as to how much money was obtained for the PEOC, and until the termination, what do we have as far as an accumulated value toward this organization?
Yeah, so the records I have are only back to 2009-10. So the first 2 years, 9-10, 10-11 would be from RDA. And then starting in 11-12 is when the general fund started contributing amounts. So if you took the last 12 fiscal years alone, as far back as I have record of right now, the accumulated amount is about 927,000.
Okay, so, but what I'm trying to get is the amount of money that was, that began to be part of the PEO. In other words, 1997, they were established, 1998, and they were given funding at that time. Was there any other funding that was being distributed to PEOC?
Beginning in 97?
Yes, sir. When we began, when the funding began to, help out PEOC, there had to have been some type of funding, whether it was RDA or some other funding. Can somebody answer that for me? Because we're going up to 2011, and I understand that that is when the RDA was terminated, and we have the established 2009, 2010. And, but the thing is, prior to that, I'm very interested in knowing how much money was contributed to a organization that we are recognizing for the last 23 years.
Mr. Mayor, this is Kirk. I might be able to help out a little bit here.
Thank you.
If you don't mind.
Sure.
So Councilperson Cole, we do not have a total for every year going back to 97. It would take, and it will take a significant amount of research to pull all those annual records. We can do that if that is the will of the council. But I can tell you that the entity was created in 1997. Mr. Marrero was obviously not working for them then. In 1997, the first year of their operations, they requested assistance from the former redevelopment agency and received it. And that assistance continued on. In 2003, the parties realized that it was unlikely that the entity would be able to be sustained and operate without an ongoing annual assistance from the city. So in 2003, there was a memorandum of understanding between the former RDA and PEOC. That was a one-year document, and it helped put some definition to how they would build out their space and how the dollars from the RDA would be used that year. Subsequent to that, it appears that the assistance has gone on uninterrupted. And as Andrew pointed out, that assistance was provided by the former RDA until the RDA was dissolved in 2012, at which time the general fund picked up the annual assistance. Since then, since 2012, it's varied from a low of $50,000 to a high of $125,000.
Right.
And for the last several years has settled at the $75,000 amount.
Exactly. I remember that former council member Sosa advocated for an additional $25,000. So
Right.
may I ask you, Mr. Romero, what are the wages for your employees, and how many employees do you have at this time?
Are you there, Fernando?
I'm here. Can you hear me? I'm sorry, I think I was on mute.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Couldn't hear you there for a second.
Sorry,
Go
no
ahead.
worries. Just to clarify, Councilmember Cole, are you referring to our staff, or are you referring to our community of workers?
Well, the wages, I was reading in the agenda that there is a wage that you have, you're 32% higher than the minimum California state wage.
Right.
And also higher, so I'm really,
Sure.
really curious as to, are these your Labor Day workers, or are they staff? Or
That's,
do you have a differentiation of employees and day laborers, sir?
yes, that's a good question. There is a differentiation. There's our staff, which are employees of the organization, including myself. We currently have a staff of 8. And then there's our community of workers, which is the folks that we facilitate services to. So the number that you're referring about is 32% higher than the minimum wage at the state level. And one of the things that we do as an organization, as advocates, is to make sure that when we pick up the phone and we send out our workers, whether it's day laborers or household workers, when they go out to work, that we're able to negotiate with the homeowner, the contractor, the company that they're going out to work for that day or that week for a living wage. Currently, the minimum wage in California is, if I'm not mistaken, is $13. So we usually negotiate at a starting level of $15 or $16 an hour and up, depending on what the skill that's required for the job. For something as advanced as roofing or drywall, that kind of thing, that will go anywhere from $25 to $30 an hour. So at the end of the year, when I put the reports together that I submitted to the council, the mayor and the staff, usually our per job, the hourly rate hovers around $18.50 an hour, which is, as I mentioned, substantially higher than the state minimum wage, what in turn allows for our workers, our day laborers and household workers to have a living wage, to have expendable money, to able to be invest and go shopping here in Pomona. And I think and I think for us, it's been a win-win situation, not just for us, but specifically for our members.
Okay, Mr. Romero, okay. I don't mean to sound like I'm picking or anything like that, but I am very interested as far as determining the wages of $18.03 and what type of training, what is their expertise that it requires an $18.03 an hour wage. And I'm just very curious as to how you came to that particular amount.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor. Well, yeah, well, the number that you're mentioning is not the baseline. That's the median or the average rate per job. That's the average rate per job per hour. That's not a number that we unilaterally decided upon. That's what, at the end of the year, when I put the reports together, that's the number that I get after I run the Excel spreadsheets formulas. And yeah, I think one of the things that we do very highly and have been doing for as long as the organization has been around is workforce development trainings, from anything from construction. We've done carpentry in the past, we've done electricity, we've done plumbing, we've done OSHA 10 trainings to make sure that our workers understand what the federal and state guidelines are when they go out for jobs. And at the same time, a lot of the jobs that our workers do, whether it's our day labor base or household worker base, is the work that they do, whether or not is very highly skilled or highly advanced, is very grueling and backbreaking work, which is when we ensure that they're going to be out, digging a ditch on the side of the 71 freeway, that they meet under 120-degree heat, that they get paid an amount per hour that's going to be worth their time. So it's both skills and also just the type of work that how intensive and how backbreaking and grueling it will be. But we always advocate for the most that we can. And it's always a negotiation with the employer, the homeowner, or the contractor. And ultimately the decision is made between the employer and our worker.
So versus a day labor person who's out in the sun, like you mentioned, doing back grueling work, how does that compare as far as wages for a lady who is doing household duties?
For someone that's not affiliated with the PEOC? Or I don't understand. Can you clarify the question?
Well, yeah, because the agenda reads that, there is the day laborers, there's household keepers. This one lady mentioned on her 3-minute concern that she hires because she is a senior and she needs the work done, that I'm expecting or suspecting that it could be a household type position. So as far as, I guess I'm trying to get the amount of money characterized by the job. So versus a day laborer versus a household a duty person, like a lady coming in and doing some household duties, does the salary differ? Is the salary different? in regards to the salary amount, sir?
Right. The number that you're inferring, the 1803, I don't have the number in front of me, but the number, as I mentioned, is both for the day labor program and the household worker program. So at the end of the year, that's the number that we have for the jobs per hour. There is a difference in the way we engage between the day labor program and the household work. There is a difference in the way we engage with the employers, and there is a difference specifically because the household worker programs typically it's a lot of times it's shorter hours, but it's still we try to negotiate as high as possible for the job that our household workers will be doing.
So at the end of the fiscal year, you're saying that the average it works out as an $18.03
right
job, but in reality, at that time when they're working, what is their hourly wage?
As I mentioned, it depends. As I mentioned, it's a negotiation between the employer, the contractor, the homeowner, and our household worker or our day labor. Our day laborers, as I mentioned, we negotiate. Well, if you're speaking specifically around the household workers, usually the starting hour for a household worker job from PEOC is about $20 an hour.
$20 for a household job. Are you talking inside the job of the house, sir?
It could be inside the house. It could be outside the house. It could be in the garage, office cleaning, catering jobs as well. I know our clear workers, our women workers, have been in constant participation with agencies like the PUSD to provide catering services and other agencies in the city of Pomona.
So, sir, and yet again, there is no really extensive formal training.
As mentioned, there is we conduct a lot of training throughout the year, both health and safety training for our day labor program and our household worker program. For the last few years, we've been providing services and support and trainings for our household workers to, how to, from things like as simple as, how to develop your own green cleaning products, so that when you go to clean a house or clean an office, that you use things like, vinegar instead of Clorox, that kind of thing. So we do provide those services, as I mentioned, the OSHA 10 trainings on a pretty constant basis.
Yeah, okay. So I'm just trying to, really establish an understanding here in regards to versus a person, take for instance, a pharmaceutical technician who goes to school for 9 months, who is certified by the state, and her starting job is $14.13. So I guess my question is, how do we, it's hard for me to understand what a person who has gone to school for 9 months versus a person who has had a minimal amount of training on how to do certain things for your organization is earning more. I guess that's one of my questions. You may not have an answer for that, correct, sir?
I mean, I can take a stab at it. I mean, we believe that regardless of education or education level or skill set, we believe that everybody should have a living wage. Whether you're, cleaning a house, digging a ditch, fixing a roof, or what have you, we believe no matter your education level, no matter, who you are, what you do, if you're working for X amount of hours or any type of job, that you deserve to go home at the end of the week with a living wage, so you can pay rent, you can pay bills, maybe take your family out for the weekend. That's what we believe in, and that's what
exactly. And that's why, sir, I'm trying to really take hold of that answer because of the fact that pharmacy techs who earn $14.13 an hour, and that's the middle average salary.
Right.
That is also having to take care of family, having to go out and earn food and things like that. Another thing I'm concerned about is your expenses in regards to what I've seen here in various, you have quite a bit of expenses, sir. And I'm just wondering, you have your salary and wages, $320,000. Okay, and everything else that's added in there, office expenses of $17,000, nutritional services, maintenance and repair. I'm curious as to what are some of these maintenance and repairs. You're in a mobile home or trailer, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Is there monthly repairs that have to be done that accumulates at $8,000, or is that a yearly thing? I'm sure it's a yearly thing.
It's yearly.
The accumulation of total expenses is $523,000. Your total revenue is $527,000. I'm wondering, and I understand your concerns about having your employees earning a decent living, a decent wage. We all are doing that. We all are affected, as you brought up, the COVID-19. We have other organizations as well that have had to cut back, including the city of Pomona. Have you thought about being, I believe you're the CEO?
I'm the executive director.
Okay, executive director, and I'm sure you had a lot of meetings and things like that. Has your organization discussed anything about cutting back on some of these expenses in order to meet the demands of your organization? I know that the city has a projected deficit of 5.9 million this year, 2021. As we go into the following fiscal year, I believe it's up to 6.2. We have already discussed the situation for our city in regards to how we're going to be able to get out of our deficit, and it may be going into tapping into our reserve funds. My curiosity is, what have you done as a director? What have you discussed as far as cutting back on some of these expenses in order to meet the demands of your organization? Can you tell me that, sir?
Sure. Thank you for bringing that up. I'm not going to get too much into the weeds of the internal conversations between myself and our accountant and our bookkeeper regarding our finances and what we're going to expend and what we're not going to expend on. I think the crux of this is the funding from the city. But we have been having these conversations. It has been a very difficult year, as everybody has experienced. We've lost some contracts from foundations here and there. Nonetheless, and a lot of it's testament to the support of the city that we're still obviously standing, because we've been able to build up our reserves over the last few years, and also to be in particular to the work that we do with other foundations, including the California Community Foundation and other big foundations at the local and state level. We have been thinking about what that will look like, what the fiscal impact will be for our organization over the next few months and into the end of next year, because as we all know, this the pandemic could potentially end sometime early next year or so, but the economic impact and the fiscal impact on public-private agencies is going to be felt for at least 3 to 5 years. So we have been having those conversations. I'd like to express how I've always been, not just on a professional level, but on a personal level, very fiscally conservative. And that's something that I've always really prided myself on. So that is something that I've definitely been discussing with my board of directors, our accountant, as to what that looked like with 2021 and future fiscal years and fiscal budgets will look moving forward in the next few years.
Also, I noticed on your fiscal report for January 20 to June 20, your total amount of revenue was $482,614. $182,614, and your expenses were $371,441. Now, compared to what it is this year, it is considerably higher, 527,000 revenue, and versus the total expenses of 523,000. And I noticed also you had 14 foundation backers last year, and this time you have 13. I don't mean to sound nitpicking, but I am curious what is going on and how is your money being spent, and also, versus what we have taken a big sacrifice as to other organizations, including our public library, which in fact we have less than 1% of the general fund. And my question is, my understanding is, is like, I'm really trying to grasp this understanding as to how we are initially offering you, giving you, supporting you with $75,000, and yet our library has less than 1%.
Right.
And this is really mind-boggling to me. And it may be mind-boggling maybe to the council, maybe not, maybe to our residents, maybe not. But to me, as a council person who believes in really studying the amounts of money that are being expended on various things, and I'm sure most of us, we're very aware, that this is a very crucial time for the city. So I'm just trying to grasp this. Maybe I'm just thinking out loud, but I do want you to know that I'm very observant about this. So if there's anything that you can add.
Sure. Well, first of all, Councilmember Cole, I agree with you. I think the library should have a lot more funding investment from the city of Pomona. As I mentioned, we believe that a safe city, a safe community is a community that has a lot of investments and resources. So I do concur on that, and it's an utter shame that this library only has 1% of the funding allocation from the city of Pomona. On another level, I mean, regarding the numbers that you were mentioning about our income, for the first 2 quarters, I'm sorry, the last 2 quarters in fiscal year 2019-2020, as I mentioned, we do have very strong partnerships with local and statewide and federal foundations that have been very generous in allocating those funding and resources to us. We've gone, and I don't have the reports with me, but I know I submitted to them to Mr. Kirk Pelzer regarding some of the membership needs that we dispersed over the last 4 or 5 months. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'm sure I can get them to Councilmember Cole first thing tomorrow morning. But we've been helping everything from gift cards, food vouchers, and direct cash assistance to our membership base. Over 200 workers that received, unfortunately, did not have access to the federal CARES Act stimulus package, or didn't have access to other state funding like unemployment insurance from the state of California. So those folks, we were able to support them with these gift cards, these food vouchers that came from these foundations. So that money, those funds have been basically coming in and out. And I think it's, as I mentioned, it's an ounce of pride for us to be able to do that for our community of workers. And as I mentioned, and kind of going back to the conversation earlier, somebody mentioned, I forget what the speaker was about. Just to put it, also would like to go on the record. Our workers we have a mix of workers regarding the demographics. We have everything from, the majority is Latino, the majority is immigrant, but we also have a lot of African Americans, and we have a lot of API community members as well. We have 2 Vietnam veterans who are on the verge of being homeless every day if they don't get services directly from us. And that's a community we provide services to, including gift cards, including food vouchers, including cash assistance.
Thank you, Fernando. Councilmember Ronald Cole, I'd like to give other council members an opportunity. I would encourage you.
Yes, I'm sorry I took so long, but these have been weighing on my mind. Mayor,
sorry.
thank you for, and I will be giving my decision in a little while.
Yeah,
Thank you, Councilmember Cole. I will be sending those reports to you first thing tomorrow morning. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Tim.
Speaking.
Yes, Tim.
Okay. And if you want to meet with them privately by phone to ask more questions, I'm sure they'd be more than happy to meet with you. I'd like to ask the rest of the council, I'm sure you'd like to weigh in, and you can. I would just encourage you, if whether you support or you don't support, is that you keep your comments concise and focused. Council member, I should say Vice Mayor Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor, and I apologize for calling you by your given name. Mr. Romero, I have a lot of respect for the PEOC. I have used their services. One of your wonderful workers came out to Philadelphia Park to help us install our little free library about a year ago for the beautification of Philadelphia Park. And I want to make it very clear that I appreciate every single thing that the PEOC has done during this pandemic and before. I know that you are giving money out of your budget to your workers who have been unemployed for months, that you are helping keep people in their homes, helping keep families together and fed. And let there be no question that the city of Pomona and this city council believes in a livable wage for all. There's a lot of horrible news going on in our world right now with the Supreme Court voting for TPS and removing those protections from our community. I believe that at least, out of the 6 of us, 5 of us have parents who are recently immigrated to this country. And we understand the struggles and we've heard the stories and we stand behind you. We've had the unbelievable fortune and privilege to be able to rise above the jobs that our parents had coming to this country. But we will never forget the stories of struggle. And we know that because of you, that struggle is made easier for many in our community. So thank you for your time. Thank you for being here to once more defend and protect the people that you serve. And there is with no doubt in my mind that the city of Pomona will continue to help and support the PEOC and the good work it does to make sure that there is equitable and just wages for all. I know that you help many people who are robbed of their daily wages recover it. And it cannot be said enough that the services that the Pomona Economic Opportunity Center provides to our community is invaluable. So thank you. Thank you for that. And with that, Mayor, I will end my comments.
Thank you,
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Preciado.
Yeah, first of all, everyone deserves a living wage. Thank you to PEOC for your work that you've done with the census. I don't believe there's any other organization in Pomona that has had as many boots on the ground, encouraging people to do their census. Aside from that, that's it. I think Vice Mayor Garcia said as much, and as well as my colleagues did enough. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Preciado.
Thank you, Councilmember Preciado. I will say a few words, Fernando, and to your team. We're incredibly fortunate to have your organization in this community. Of course, I've had a chance to work closely with you the past 4 years and more recently on the COVID-19 Action Committee. And if there was ever a time where we needed an organization like yours, this is the time. As some people may or may not know, one of the biggest challenges of the CARES Act dollars is making sure that the community has the information, particularly our renters, that they have the information that they need so that they know that they're eligible for these dollars. And as some of you know, it can be hard to reach some of our residents, and it's organizations like the Pomona Economic Opportunity Center, because of those trusted relationships, those relationships that they've built over time, and those relationships have other relationships in the community, it perhaps means the difference between somebody maintaining and staying in their home or apartment and being on the streets. And in fact, the PEOC was one of 4 organizations that received funds to help residents fill out the application, because we know for some that can be a serious challenge. And I don't think we should ever put whether we should fund the PEOC or the library. The fact is that we should fund both because they both play a very critical role in the fabric of this community. And if I had to say something about the PEOC, they are community. They're the embodiment of community. I know that they have gatherings for their workers that are about culture and music and dance and food. They're about making sure that they can negotiate a wage that is a living wage for their workers. My mom was a housekeeper for almost 40 years, and she never made more than $11.50 an hour. And she didn't have anybody there necessarily to represent her. She didn't have a union. She didn't have a PEOC. And I can't tell you how critical it is at this time, and not just this time, but for as long as they've been around, since 1997, 1998, that they've been helping families, they've been helping people. And, you know, Fernando, you made the point about when we talk about investing in our community, this is an example of that. And so the PEOC has my full support, and I appreciate what you do. I just want to thank you. And I think I speak for a lot of the community. It appreciates the work that you do in Pomona. So I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to support the item, and I'll need a second.
Second.
Okay, let's go ahead and do a roll call.
Okay, roll call. Preciado,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Ontiveros Cole,
Not at this time, no.
Lustro,
Yes.
Torres,
Yes.
Sandoval.
Yes. Okay, motion passes. We can go on to agenda item 4.
It was agenda item 3, Mayor.
Oh, forgive me, sorry.
No problem. Agenda item 3 is approving funding of $50,000 to the Pomona Chamber of Commerce in accordance with the defined disbursement schedule. And we do have 2 email comments that we received for this item.
Okay, if you want to go ahead and read those.
Sure. First comment is from Elizabeth Brooks. Membership in the Pomona Chamber of Commerce is open to all businesses. I believe the Pomona City Council should support this funding. Brick and mortar business are suffering during this pandemic. More attention needs to be directed to their needs, and the Chamber is in a strong position to assist them. I appreciate that the city is finally working on shutting 2nd Street for outside dining, but it is a few months too late. Perhaps giving the Chamber more financial support will allow them to be more aggressive in serving the business community. I encourage you to vote yes for funding the Pomona Chamber of Commerce. Last comment is from M. Joyce Baker Smith. I object to continuing the financial support to the Pomona Chamber of Commerce. The organization continues to receive funds, and it seems to me that it should be self-sufficient. I saw the attachments that accompanied the item on the agenda. It showed receipts and expenditures. I did not see achieved results listed. If the benefits of being a member can be better defined, perhaps that might encourage more membership from all Pomona businesses, and this would eliminate its need to solicit membership from all Pomona, eliminate its need to solicit membership from all Pomona businesses. Additionally, why is there a need for Cámara de Comercio Hispana del Villa de Pomona? If these 2 chambers were combined, perhaps that would make for a more economically stronger and more all-inclusive business chamber for our city. It seems if we would all work together for the common good of uniting us, our city would be better off and more compassionate and understanding of all residents in the city. And that was the final email comment.
Okay. And I don't know that any council member pulled it, unless any council member wants to speak on this item. Just go ahead and raise your hand and I'll call on you. Okay, all right, I'm not seeing any hands up. Can I get a motion from the council?
I'll motion.
Move the item.
Okay, I've got a motion by Councilmember Lestro first, and I've got a second by Councilmember Preciado. If we can do a roll call.
Preciado,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Ontiveros Cole,
Yes.
Lustro,
Yes.
Torres,
Yes.
Sandoval.
Yes, and I think I don't recall if Monique Manzanares did a presentation on their work recently, but if she hasn't, I think it would be probably valuable for her to do something similar to what Fernando did, just to provide some background on their work. I know they do outstanding work in the community. They've been very involved in the COVID-19 Action Committee and were helpful, particularly with the survey of businesses and the needs, as well as the grants, the micro business grants that we provided for 40+ businesses in the amount of $5,000 per business. So just want to acknowledge that. Okay, so I have a first, I have a second, and we did roll call?
We did.
Okay, we're good. All right. Okay, so I think the next item is at 21. Councilmember Lustro wanted us to pull that item.
Yes. Did you want me to read the title on this one, Mayor?
Sure.
Okay. Item 21 is the award of a contract to Interwest Consulting Group for building and safety services for the city of Pomona.
Okay, Councilmember Lustro.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'll do my best to be brief. It's no secret to the council. I've gone on record in the past as having my concerns about having contract building and safety staff. I've heard during my term on council, and actually prior to my term on council, concerns raised by the community regarding the service that they've received from building and safety. I know that in response to a request that I made last year, staff did a little bit of research with respect to the costs of bringing building and safety back under the auspices of the city and having an in-house building and safety department. And I believe it was determined that doing that would be relatively cost prohibitive, and obviously in the budget scenario that we are right now, probably makes it even worse. I guess what I would say is that the awarding a 3-year contract with 2 potential 1-year extensions to Interwest, pretty much seals the deal that we're going to be contracting out for at least the next probably 3 years and possibly 5 years. And so, I would, based on the concerns that have been raised from the community, I would just simply like to ask staff that we maybe look at a couple of possibilities with respect to the operation of building and safety. I think the most important thing, or the concern that I probably heard most often from residents was getting mixed messages from multiple building inspectors on various types of projects. So very briefly, you'd have one inspector come out, inspect a project, ask for corrections. The corrections are made, and then when a subsequent inspection is made, a different inspector comes out and asks for different corrections to be made. We need to find a way to deal with that a little bit better and have some more consistency with respect to service to our residents. So, I don't know if there's a way in overseeing building and safety department. And I guess, maybe this is a question for Anita, is that when it comes to field inspections, I don't know whether or what the opportunities would be is that if an inspector is assigned to a project, that inspector, he or she ends up getting the inspections on the project from day one until it's final. So that there's some consistency and homeowners or contractors aren't getting mixed messages. And then the other thing is that was suggested to me is if we don't do a complete in-house transition to the entire building and safety department, maybe there's some kind of a compromise or a hybrid in there that maybe the building official becomes a city employee rather than a contract employee overseeing the contract company. I don't know whether that's reasonable or whether it's doable or not. But from my perspective, I think the inspection side of it is the side that needs a little bit more attention, and I'm hoping that as we move forward, that maybe we can address that issue. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lustro. Councilmember Preciado, did you want to say something? Go ahead.
To expand on what Councilmember Lustro is saying, plus I agree with him, is I would also like to see how we can get feedback from those that have used Interwest and any of our city departments that have interact with our public. I'd like to see if we can do some type of survey or request for data to see how we're doing, and so we can see how to improve if need be, or to celebrate those that are doing really well. I know that Anita last year provided like a timeline sheet, how from 2 years ago to the following year, planning checks have been cut in half. And, I'd like to see how our other departments are doing. And it's very specific this time right now, our current agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the council?
Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember, Vice Mayor Garcia.
Thank you. I just want to say that I think it would behoove us to maybe offer a smaller contract. Is that something that we could possibly do? Is that something that staff could comment on? Is there any way that we can get a smaller contract or a shorter contract and go out and investigate some of these things?
Who on staff wants to speak on that? James?
So,
I think we offered the contract out during the RFP process as a 3-year process. Is that correct, Anita?
that's correct.
So I think the companies that bid on it were bidding on a 3-year contract. So we'd have to go back and review it. I think maybe if the council has some issues with this contract, that maybe we could go month to month for the time being and explore some different issues that you may have with the contract, and maybe come back with some other ideas to you. But in speaking to Anita, Director Gutierrez, about Interwest, I think we've been happy with them over the past year. I think that they've been working with us and trying to acknowledge some of their deficiencies. And I think Director Gutierrez has been working with them to see some improvement. And, I don't think that improvement always translates quickly to the public perception, but I think we're working on it. And I think we acknowledge it. And, to bring in another contractor, that brings on its own issues with training them up and getting them to learn the lay of the land and how the city of Pomona operates. So I think we have a fairly efficient program that can always use some tweaking. And I think that the director and I are always looking to do that. So.
Anita, thank you, James. Anita, you were about to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to add on to and respond to Councilman Lestro's questions and comments. I certainly think that regarding the inspections, I think that's an area that we can improve upon. I would say that there is definitely an effort to be made to ensure that the same inspector is sent out to each job site upon every inspection. However, some of the downfalls of that are some of the strengths with having a contract agency that has a large staff member to pull from. So in the event when a particular inspector, I think we have 6 assigned to Pomona, when in the event one is not available and there needs to be an inspection that day, we have staff, Interwest has staff to be able to send out. So we're able to be responsive in that way, but that also means it may not always be the same one. But I definitely can work with building and safety and Interwest to ensure even more continued responsiveness and ensure that there is even more so that same face every time, so you get the same comment and the same comments and same perspective from the same building inspector. So and I will say, as James mentioned, we always work to improve. Some of the things which are not Interwest specifically related but that will definitely bring improvement are some of the technology advances that we're bringing to the department with an upgrade to Intergov, our publicly facing permit system. So my goal is to be able to bring Pomona into the digital age, digital submission by 2021. We're doing some heavy upgrades through grant dollars to upgrade Intergov, which will affect our building and safety, public works, planning, all of the development envelope, all of those things combined, I think will make all of the permit processes a lot smoother. Right now, we're very manual labor centered, all of everything, which we've found during COVID. We've had to make all these workarounds, which can also limit inspection times and turnaround and submittals. So when a lot of our other neighboring cities are already all digital, everything here we're doing is manual. So that's going to go a long way in improving services, which isn't necessarily Interwest's fault. It's what they're working with here in Pomona, but those advancements are coming, which will help the entire development envelope.
Yep. Thank you. I was going to add that, thank you for that, James. Thank you for that, Anita. I used to get a lot more calls about some of the issues that Councilmember Lestro raised. That's not to say it doesn't still exist to some degree, but I really think with your leadership, Anita, that there's been a huge improvement in how we deliver services. Clearly having the right people in place is critical to making sure that the organization is run, works well. I think with Interwest, I think what would be helpful, and perhaps this is helpful to you as well, is I don't know how, for lack of a better term, robust our customer service feedback is, right? So if, let's just say, a business goes through Interwest, through a process, what is it that we do to ask for feedback, right? Because I think given that they're a company that we outsource to and that we're paying, that should there be issues that come back through a feedback system, right? Not for the purposes of tearing them down, for the purposes of helping them to be better. And if clearly if they're not delivering services better, then I think we should always reserve the right to call that kind of service into question. And I think that's helpful for any body, right? Is to be able to reflect and to evaluate how they're executing their work. But I have seen an improvement. I'm okay with the contract, but I think that piece to me is very important. The feedback loop from our business community, what kind of experiences they're having, our residents, and that should help sort of guide our decision making as it relates to this particular company. Okay, I assume there are no more additional comments from the council. Do I have a motion for item 21?
Mr. Mayor, if I just might make a final comment, and just, to be clear, I don't object to the contract either, but I want to make it known what the concerns are. If we're going to contract with Interwest for a minimum of another 3 years, I think it's important to know what the concerns are in the community and the concerns that have been raised and how they might be able to work to address that. And while I agree with what Anita said with respect to the fact that, maybe circumstances would dictate that maybe the same inspector maybe wouldn't be able to go out on every inspection. But there needs to be some communication amongst the different staff members, because if I think the thing that and I'll say it again, the thing that I probably heard most often, and I haven't, in all honesty, I haven't heard it recently, but the thing that I used to hear is that one message would be sent to a contractor or a resident for 1 or 2 corrections, and they figure, oh well, if I get these corrections done, then I'm going to be ready for my final, or I'll be ready to move forward on my project. And then when a different inspector comes out, then they get a different message and the project gets delayed. So those are my concerns, and I think if those can be addressed, then I think we're going to be able to go a long way toward resolving those issues and providing a higher service level to the public. So with that, I'll move the item.
Yeah, those are some good points, Councilmember Lester. Appreciate it. Can I get a second? Councilmember Preciado?
Sure, second.
All righty, we'll do a roll call.
Preciado,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Ontiveros Cole,
Yes.
Lastro,
Yes.
Torres,
Yes.
Sandoval.
Yes. Okay, the next item.
Next item is discussion calendar item is the finding of public benefits to the community at large, recommended expenditures, and recap.
Move to approve. Can I get a second?
Second, are we not opening for public comment? We're good.
I don't know. Do we have anybody from the public who's wishes to speak on this item? I don't believe so.
No, I don't have anyone.
Okay, let's go and do a roll call.
Roll call, Preciado,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Ontiveros Cole,
Yes.
Lustro,
Yes.
Torres,
Yes.
Sandoval.
Yes. Next item.
Next item, matters initiated by the city council members. These are items for future city council consideration as requested by the mayor or members of the city council.
Okay, let's start with Councilmember Preciado.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Do you want to just mention the 5K, 10K, and just that could have been mentioned earlier, but I know that we're still doing it this year, but virtually.
Yeah, and I'll bring it up next Monday at the proper time as well. But the 5K, 10K will be happening. We've got a very nice medal reveal that happened. People will get a shirt and they will get a mask this time, as masks continue to be a priority, not just due to COVID, but I know I was wearing one because of the fires. And thank you for everyone that has participated. We have, this is going to be the fourth year. The first year we helped a local folkloric dance studio get a new flooring that they desperately needed. 2 years in a row that we've helped high school kids with their summer school program in learning life skills. We've had a running group at Lexington Elementary receive running items that we sponsored them, and we just sponsored the self-care lab in downtown Pomona as well. So thank you everyone for your efforts, and we appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Preciado. Sorry to.
It's fine. I mean, it's an amazing community event, and with everything going on, we wanted to make sure that, like, I always take pictures of people walking around that have their 5K shirts on, and so I can't wait to see people share this moment together when they say, hey, we both did it, and they get to look at each other, and then I'll take a picture. So it's thank you for everybody out there in the community with that.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. I was not able, due to technical difficulties, to be on at the meeting in the beginning, but I do apologize for that. I do want to say that I want the residents to know that they're being heard. I posted a video about the street on Philadelphia getting repaved. We get it. There's a lot of streets that need repaving in the city of Pomona, and we're going to be doing our absolute and very best. I also want to thank everyone who has donated fans to keep cool Pomona, and to let people know that there are still fans available. It's in this hot weather, it's been great to see that people are willing to help make life more comfortable for others. With that, I will close my comments and thank you, Mayor, for giving us this opportunity to share our news.
You got it. Thank you. Councilmember Ontiveros Cole.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to tell everybody to stay safe and to continue to abide by the COVID-19 rules. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Lestro.
Thank you, sir. Nothing this evening.
All righty. Councilmember Torres.
No, I just want to thank the residents for tuning in and staying with us this late. Looking forward to talking to you out there in the next couple of weeks. Take care.
Great. Thank you, Councilmember Torres. I've got about 15 things that I'd like to discuss. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I wouldn't do that to you. I really don't have anything to add at this time. Hard to believe. Listen, want to thank everyone. I know that at this meeting we gave folks the opportunity to be able to speak publicly. Certainly, folks can continue to submit written comments to the city clerk. Our next meeting is on the 21st. So at this time, we're going to adjourn to a regular meeting on Monday, September 21st, 2020, via Zoom webinar due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Closed session items will be discussed at 5:30 p.m. The open session will commence at 7 p.m. Want to thank staff again. I know we've had to make a lot of adjustments to get to this point. And there's certainly a lot more work to be done. We are certainly not out of COVID-19. Be safe, be healthy, and continue to look out for each other. Everyone, please have a good night and see you soon. Bye
Good
now.
night.